Hello, everyone, and welcome to my review slash recap of season 17, episodes 8 and 9 of Naked and Afraid, Unbreakable, and Triple Threat. Before I go on, I would like to mention that I have 4 surveys going on right now via Google Forms. Thank you, Google Forms, not sponsored. And they're all Naked and Afraid related because on one, there's an XL survey where there are survivalists who haven't been on XL where you could vote, and I have the results on my personal Facebook page and they're public, and hopefully the producers and casting can maybe see the results of it. I have it posted on the various Naked and Afraid Facebook pages, and hopefully production and casting can see it there. But if you would like to vote to see someone either go back to XL, go back for an XL redemption, or go back for a 14/21 day redemption, I have those surveys linked below. Please vote, but also don't spam. I also have a 4th survey that I haven't really posted to any of the Facebook pages where it's Largados y Pelados related, which is the Brazilian spin-off of Naked and Afraid, and they recently had a very successful 3rd season, and so it would be nice to see some of them return for an XL, so I have that survey linked below, and if you have any favorites, just vote for them. I have the results posted, as I said before, and hopefully production and casting can see that, because production, unfortunately, is not involved in this. This is for the fans, made by a fan, and so hopefully that'll all be seen and hopefully it'll work out for the best, but please vote. And also on April 12th, it was noted that an XL is coming on May 12th, and there are 2 twists to this season. One is that none of the survivalists have seen day 22. Spoilers, some of them aren't going to see day 22 anyway, and also, they have to trek 40 miles in 40 days, which is a very odd twist. Why not have just newbies? But if this video gets 500 views, I will, make a little speculation, theory, my thoughts video about XL, because there are some thoughts that I have that I would really like to say out loud, but I'm not going to do it here, because we are going to be talking about 2 episodes of Naked and Afraid. And so the first episode I'm going to be talking about is called Unbreakable, which when I saw it was only an hour and a half as opposed to 2 hours, I was a little worried. But Unbreakable, we have Fairland and Keenan. And Fairland previously fell off a cliff and broke lots of bones, and so she is a very tough person. Keenan, he is an outdoor enthusiast and he's a herpetologist. He loves reptiles and amphibians, and so I thought that was cool because I like reptiles and amphibians as well, so I could relate to him. And also I wanted to point out that Keenan, his talking head interviews were very odd to me. Not that he was odd, but either he was not centered in frame or the background was really blurry, and then also for his promo pic that was super blurry, and so I was just very confused, and there was something in my brain that was telling me something was wrong, even though Keenan was not doing anything wrong in that moment. But Keenan and Fairland were put in a very desolate, well, not desolate, but there weren't that many resources for them. They could get water, and they were able to set their camp up to where they didn't have to deal with bugs, but there wasn't really anything in terms of food around them. Keenan found a tortoise on day 2 or 3 or early on, and they decided not to consume it, which I thought was a good idea because it was so cute. And I remember someone posting on Reddit about how you can't hunt tortoises or turtles in Colombia. I'm sure it was tortoises, but I can't remember. I don't know if that's accurate. I didn't look it up, but I wish that, if they weren't able to consume it anyway, then the editors would just tell us that, but they decided not to. And so they were able to set up camp, and Keenan, after he saw the tortoise, it seemed that he was kind of realizing the situation he would have to be in and what he would have to do to survive. And at least that was what the edit showed us. And so it was very, it looks like he doesn't want to consume the animals that he loves, and he might have to, but he doesn't want to do that. So unfortunately on day 5 he tapped, and so Fairland was left on her own for the rest of the time, and she was able to catch some minnows, but she wasn't really able to get that much food, but she basically endured, and luckily she was able to successfully complete the challenge. She ended up losing 40 pounds apparently, and she rode off on horseback out of the challenge. So good for her for completing the challenge, but I did see a lot of people were upset about the fact, not upset, but they were talking about the fact that the environment didn't yield that many resources, and it seems that Naked and Afraid is just putting certain people in areas that don't have a lot, so basically they're just starving for 21 days, and so that's not cool if they're doing that, but maybe there was some resource that they couldn't see, but I don't know. I don't make the rules. I don't know exactly what's going on. And then moving on, we go to actually one of my new favorite episodes, Triple Threat, with Julia, Frank, and Scott. Now, Julia, Frank, and Scott have been on 14-day challenges and were able to successfully make it through. Julia is Trish's daughter, and she was with Waylon, who is Wes's son, and she successfully completed her challenge. Frank was with Sarah, who we saw Sarah in episode 2 of season 17. There will be red body juices. And Frank did a good job there, and people were like, why is he on a 14-day challenge? He should be on a 21-day challenge. And so now here he is. And then we have Scott, who was on Gag Me with a Turtle, where he and his partner won the episode where they have that infamous conversation about how to basically get the turtle and what to do with all that, and it was a very interesting scenario. And poor Turtle, and his partner tapped day 4 of his challenge, so he spent a lot of time alone, but he was able to endure and make it to the challenge, and good for him for being able to do that on his own. And so all have proven themselves on 14-day challenges, and now they're back for a 21-day challenge. And people have been complaining about episodes being boring, and sometimes 2-hour episodes could be a bit too long, but luckily with this episode, I think 2 hours was a really, really good length. We got some really good storylines with Julia trying to become a all-star / legend similar to her mom. If Julia completed this challenge and then a 40-day challenge, she would be at equal number of days survived with her mom, and she kind of wants to, get to the same level as her mom. And Frank and Scott kind of had a storyline going on where Frank wanted to be safe with what he was doing because risk versus reward, and Scott wanted to take a few more risks that didn't really pay off, and so they never really butted heads, but there were some interesting dynamics going on, and it was great because this episode didn't have lots of drama and fighting, even though there were conflicting styles, but everyone seemed amicable. Everyone worked well together. There were a few discussions like, I don't know if we should be taking these risks and all that jazz, but luckily everything worked out really well. I feel like the episode liked to focus on Frank and Scott's different survival styles, and Julia had her moments because Julia managed to catch an iguana early on, and then Frank later got some coconuts and only showed him getting 2 coconuts. Alexa, play Coconuts by Kim Petras, and
here's Coconuts by Kim Petras.
Sorry about that. There was a device near me that started playing Coconuts by Kim Petras, and so I had to have a dance break. Anyway, on the Naked and Afraid Instagram page, there is a photo of Frank chopping up more coconuts, and so I don't know if Frank was the one who found the rest of the coconuts, but the group did find more than the 2 that Frank had found that was shown in the episode, so it was good that they got extra calories. And Scott was able to find some Heart of Palm while on an excursion, but unfortunately it was really bitter, so we don't see them throwing it all away, but Scott said it was a waste, so unfortunately they might not have been able to eat as much as they could have, unfortunately. But later on, Scott was able to find some bird eggs, and they were able to get some much needed calories for their extraction. And one of the storylines during the episode was that with the heavy rainfall and the area that they set up camp, it was kind of a flood zone. And you might be thinking, oh, why didn't they build camp somewhere else? Unfortunately, that was really the only flat spot they could find was in the middle of this riverbed. And in the cold open, we saw that the area was flooding, so it was very unfortunate that the situation happened where they were kind of flooded out. But before that, I wanted to mention how Frank was very nice and was teaching Julia and Scott some survival techniques such as building traps, and he was also teaching Scott about different survival strategies and techniques and whatnot, and Scott was very receptive to it. So it was nice to see the kind of mentor-mentee mentality going on, and I can see all 3 of them going back for an XL, but I think of the 3, Frank would be kind of at the top of the list. But I was kind of thinking about D&D when I was watching the episode, and I was thinking, oh, Scott's kind of the barbarian. He has endurance, so he's kind of able to expend a little bit more calories than everyone else and still kind of be full steam ahead. Julia is the ranger. She's just like going out there in the wild and like grabbing iguanas out of the swimming hole and all that fun stuff, and she's tough as well. Frank is kind of the wizard of the group, where instead of spells, it's just survival techniques, and he just has a lot of knowledge that he's able to use to his advantage. And it was very cool to see all of them working together in this very awesome and very random D&D campaign. Anyway, going back to the cold open, on night 20, there was some heavy rains, and unfortunately their shelter was flooded, and so they had to find another spot to camp out for the night. And luckily they had scouted out a location where they could settle down if that were the case. So luckily they were able to go there. They had a fire all night, but unfortunately they weren't able to get any sleep. And then they had to, with the cordage that they made, because Scott made a cool little basket of the cordage so it wouldn't get tangled up, plus the cordage that was brought with them, they were able to, after, doing a very intense hike, they were able to build a raft. I would also like to hear the story about how they were able to scout this location, because there was a point where it was it wasn't a sheer drop, but it was a very, very steep decline where they had to go to get to extraction, and Scott is scared of heights. So I'm sure production was like, oh, he's scared of heights, let's have them like go to the drop-off area, and they were able to get down it, but it looked very dangerous. And I really hope they don't do too many more extremes with these challenges, because people can get really hurt, and we don't want to see that. We don't want to see people get super, super hurt when they don't have to. But anyway, after not sleeping all night, having to go down this steep incline, having to hike through the jungle, they built a bamboo raft, and they rafted several miles down to the Atlantic Ocean, and Julia was on the raft and the other two were swimming behind it. And luckily there was no caiman that got them, and they were able to all successfully complete the challenge. Hooray! Julia, Frank, and Scott completed the 21-day challenge, and it was great. I highly recommend Triple Threat. It's a really, really good episode. I like it when the 2-hour episodes are for 3 to 4 person challenges, because there's a lot of cool dynamics that can be built on in the 2 hours. I felt Julia was kind of pushed to the side compared to the Frank and Scott differing survival styles, but I still think everyone had their moment. Everyone did great. Everyone's PSR rose. Scott should have maybe gotten a little bit higher PSR raise, but he successfully completed a 14 and 21 day challenge. He endured. He's amazing. Frank, his jumped the most, and so hopefully we'll see him on an XL soon. Julia did great as well. She endured and she conquered, and her mom surprised her at the end, and so that was nice to see them, and maybe soon she'll be on a 40-day as well. Will Trish be on another challenge before then? We shall see. And with that, I have completed the recap of episodes 8 and 9 of Naked and Afraid, Unbreakable, and Triple Threat. I hope you all enjoyed. Please like, comment nice things, and subscribe. Please vote on the surveys that I have below, and click the next video if it's mine. Thank you, and have a great day. Bye-bye.